morning. My name is Etuete Shiningayamwe, and I'm going to be a tutor for curriculum studies. So the subject is mainly for Bachelor of Education Honors, BEd Honors, BEd CS11, and Senior Primary BESP, BEs CS32, Diploma in Education, DE, which means now DE, CS21, Diploma in Education Secondary, DES, CS21, and Diploma in Junior Primary, that's now a DGPE, in DGP CS32. So the subject is curriculum study. This presentation is about the examination-based contact classes, January 2020. It's prepared by Etuete DNE Shiningayamwe. So feel welcome, Happy New Year, and I'm going to be a tutor. All the best. This presentation will discuss some of the content that are covered in your study guide. Unfortunately, I'm not going to discuss everything. I'm only going to give you a highlight of the course, and so I will not give attention to the whole content in the study guide. I think it's more than 200 pages, and I only have 45 minutes, so I'll not be able to make it to go through everything. So let me also use this time to advise you colleagues to go through the learning outcome of this study guide or of this module. It's very important for you to go through the learning outcome one by one. Why? Because the learning outcomes gives you an overview of what is going to happen, or it's an overview of the whole course. By the end of the course, what is that the course, what will you be empowered with, or what type of skills or knowledge are you expected to acquire from this course? So briefly, the learning outcomes are the brief, it's a brief. They kind of give you an overview of what is that you are expecting to know from the course. So at least if you kind of go through them, it will give you a better analysis, or to give you a better understanding of the subject. So I would also want to advise you colleagues that it's very important that you also go through the learning activities. The learning activities are like self-oriented learning tasks. So the questions that are in the study guide with certain answers. So it's very important that you kind of just exercise, or you kind of test your knowledge to know how far can you go with answering certain questions, and it's training your mind. You're also trying to kind of test how far are you going, or how far do you understand the content of the subject. Without wasting much time, I would also want to read the study guide thoroughly. This presentation does not only cover issues that are going to go into the exam. Some of the things covered in this presentation are not even part of the exam. So it's very important that you go through the study guide. This presentation gives you an overview of the whole concept of curriculum studies or curriculum issues. So prior to our discussion, it's important that I take you through some of the learning outcome to acquaint yourself with the subject matter. Due to the time, unfortunately, I'm not going to go through all the learning outcomes, because you can go through them one by one, but I would want you to kind of have a discussion on other topics in the study guide. So as mentioned earlier, this module will take you through the key characteristics of curricular and quality education. Maybe just go through all of them, provide a historical improvement of curriculum, but for the sake of time, let's not waste time on them. Go through them and try to kind of highlight the main word. If they say discuss the contribution of philosophy to curriculum education, what does that mean? What does discuss? What does contribute? What does philosophy? And what does curriculum education mean? Prior to our discussion, I kind of want to take you through a very important aspect of defining the concepts. The subject itself is curriculum studies. What is curriculum studies, or what does it mean, curriculum? You know, curriculum, when people are setting up the education system, there's a certain regulation, or there's a procedure that they are following. They just don't wake up one morning and they're saying, no, we are going to have grade 1 up to 9, or we are going to have grade 1 up to 12. So there's kind of a certain regulation or a certain track that these people are following, or these people are kind of guided. No, there's kind of a plan, or this kind of it's a plan, or it can be called like a track, or it's a vision written that these people are guided by. So in shortly, curriculum is an educational track that guides the planning, the organization, the implementation, the assessment, including issues of assessment, activities, teaching activities and teaching learning. So when we speak about curriculum studies, we are actually referring to issues around curriculum. So now, features of curricula and quality education. So Carl defined the term curriculum to refer to a plan or an educational track followed in education as part of and in preparation of life. It's important that we discuss a curriculum consists of major components such as the purpose, the content, the teaching, learning experiences, and assessment. What does it mean? What are these components? What is a purpose? A purpose, why are we having a curriculum? The purpose of the curriculum is the reason. Why are we implementing this type of curriculum? If you are looking very well, for instance, right now in Namibia, we have a curriculum that was lately just reformed. Now, this curriculum has a purpose. Why are we revising the curriculum? Maybe Namibia would want to compete to be on par with other global competitive universities or global competitive secondary schools. So there's a content. A content now contains what we call a syllab. A content now, what is the content? What is going to be taught? What type of subjects? What type of books? What type of, in the previous curriculum, if you can recall very well, prior to independence, I know some of you are still very young. Prior to independence, we have a curriculum that was based on the Cambridge system. We have the curriculum that was based on the South African system. But now, after independence, we have another one that was based on the Cambridge system. Now, the whole point is that there's a purpose. So I'm not trying to hurt the wounds, but what I'm trying to say is that, let me say, prior to independence, before Namibia get independence, the curriculum's purpose was based on the colonials. So they make sure that the curriculum was not based on democracy, it was not based on fairness, it was not based on equality, it was not based on accessibility. So because the purpose of their curriculum was to divide Namibia, for instance. So that was their aim. So immediately after Namibia get independence, I'm trying to explain to you the purpose. So in terms of the purpose now, when Namibia get independence, 1999, we realized that, okay, the previous curriculum that we have is not addressing our needs. We need to revise the curriculum to address our need. So what is the purpose that we want? We need a democratic Namibian. So the curriculum should also be democratic. That's why we have the 4 goals of education, where we have democracy, where we have equality, where we have equity, where we have an access. So they realized that all these 4 goals of education were not part of the previous one. That's where they are called the goals of education. That's the purpose of education. That's the purpose of our curriculum. So the content. So under which content should we base our curriculum? Remember, so the content is now the subject. What type of subject are we going to teach? Like now, when the curriculum is being revised, in terms of the content, you look at that, the content of the curriculum is based on the needs of the Namibian. They've realized that, I think, gone are days, we do not have entrepreneurship skill. We do not have IT. We do not have vocational education in part of our curriculum education from grade 1 to grade 7. So the content, that is the new syllabus. They speak about a new syllabus. A syllabus is a smaller, a syllabus is actually a content of the curriculum. And then it goes to the teaching and learning the teaching and the learning activities. So in the previously, maybe if people were only taught in class, you could say, okay, I think we also need to revise our curriculum in terms of the teaching and learning experiences. We cannot keep on just teaching learners in front of the class. Maybe we can also have simulations. Maybe we can also have maybe case studies. We take our learners on a field trip, you know, and even the learning activities, they are just not based on a book. Maybe they are also based on other issues. Maybe learners can watch a TV. I'm trying to get even the type of assessment. We are trying to align them to the current situation. Previously, people just used to write exam, but you hear that no, people are no longer going to write exam. You could even say people are going to have portfolios. Maybe they are just going to build portfolios. So it's a very important aspect for you to know that a curriculum consists of major components, or it's a track. It's kind of a track or a plan that guide how education is going to be implemented. For the sake of this subject, it's very important that all the aspects that are going to be spoken about, it's about curriculum implementation, the design, the initiation. Where do we start? The planning, how are we going to plan it? The development, what are we going to develop? Implementation, what are we going to implement? How are we going to put everything that we have planned into action? And then we come to the evaluation. How are we going to evaluate that our curriculum is working or not? How are we going to monitor? What strategies are we going to put in place for us to know that our curriculum is not working or not? So briefly, that is it. In Unit 1, we spoke about we can discuss about the desired social improvement which are promoted by the curriculum from 1930s in American schools to bring about social changes. What in 1930, you know, in 1930 to 2019, that's around 90 years, so a difference of 90 years. So when we speak about the desired social improvement which are promoted by the curriculum to bring about social change, like in 1990s, for instance, Americans wanted to bring about social changes in their life. So they remember we are speaking about the content and the purpose of the curriculum. So they make sure that within their curriculum, what is that they could do to bring about a social change? They have gone through a curriculum. What type of issues did they put into their curriculum? What type of issues were they trying to eradicate or to bring among in their own community as via the curriculum? They speak about combat values, attitudes or racial discrimination, sympathetic tolerance, to develop attitudes of critical openness, solving and decision makings, logical conclusions. So these are some of the issues that even as in Namibia, we could adopt at this point of time if we still want to get rid of racial discrimination, develop skills for learners in order to understand information, to really kind of have problem-solving issues, or to really have our curriculum based on high level of thinking. Now, the other topic maybe that we can talk about into Unit 1, we can discuss about factors in our natural environment that can influence our wellness. As we are living in our own environment, there are certain factors. We have what we call the wellness. What is wellness? Wellness is just not about having a job. Some people believe that, no, if I get a job, I'm going to be fine. But in wellness, it's about the emotional, the physical, the social, and the intellectuality. So you can only speak about that you are well when you are functioning properly in terms of you have emotional wellness, you have physical wellness, your social wellness, and even wellness. It's kind of a broader term. Like for you to say you are fine. It doesn't just depend on one aspect of wellness, but you have the social aspect, the physical aspect, the emotional aspect, and the health aspect. All those aspects should be part of you. Now, what are the factors in our natural environment that can influence our wellness? What factors in our natural environment that can influence our wellness? So we have like maybe the weather, the natural environment. Remember, the natural environment, these are natural environment. These are like natural issues that can influence or that can maybe have an impact on our wellness. We speak about maybe the weather. If the weather is not so good, or it's very hot, or it's very cold, we may suffer from different diseases, or maybe moods, or even depressions and other things. The geography, if some people are living just maybe next to the mountain, it can be very hot, it can be very cold. And the pollution, maybe if you are living in town and there are factories and industries that are producing a lot of fossil fuels, or a lot of maybe a burning of fossil fuels is happening, it can also influence our wellness by inhaling maybe some elements that may damage our lungs, or maybe can damage our own health. So apart from that, we are moving toward the Miller's classification of orientation. Miller was an academic philosopher who believed that when education is taking place, it should take place via transmission, it takes place via transaction, and it also must take place via transformation. So what does it mean, transformation? By transformation, Miller wanted to mean that for education to take place, it should focus strongly on the development of the learner. Like the learner should be able to transform and reconstruct the society. For if we are saying education has taken place, it's when this person is transformed from point A to point B, but it's just not transformed on himself to start wearing naked, or maybe to start behaving funny, and then you will say the person is civilized. But he are also able to restructure the whole society. What do you do when you are restructuring the whole society? You should be able to bring changes, positive changes that we are referring to. Maybe you should be able to organize a group of young people and maybe do a cleaning up campaign. That is like, you should be able to see different things on a different way. Miller also speak about transmission. So by transmission, Miller was saying that transmission is more like a traditional teacher-centered and subject-based orientation, where the focus is on the learners acquiring discipline knowledge for the sake of knowledge via transmission lesson by the teacher. So Miller believed that when a person is educated but they are transmitted, they cannot do anything. They have just swallowed the information that they get, and that's it. They have just received, they were just filled as empty bottles. They were just filled as empty vessels by the teacher, but they are not able to do anything. So he believed that when education is transmitted, it's actually just, the person is just, they are not able to do anything for the society, because they have just received the knowledge filled by the teacher without questioning whether they are relevant or they're not relevant to their life. And then he also spoke about transaction orientation. With transaction orientation, it's mainly a humanistic orientation and a more means-end approach. The subject knowledge serves to promote cognitive development and other self-actualization dimensions of child development, and to promote adaptation to the society. The teacher is a democratic facilitator, and teaching activity involve learners actively, like a learner-centered program. The curriculum content and the process of implementation, it receives emphasis. With transaction, it's when the person is educated in terms of transaction, they are in between. They are not able to transform the community. They are also not, they were just not transmitted, they just did not receive the knowledge. But it's more like it's a means-end approach, that transaction helps to develop the cognitive development of the person, that the person is able to see different things in a different way. Please go through them. I don't want to make kind of much time on This we are moving toward Unit 2. The concept of holistic wellness, aims, and employability skills. Holistic wellness. When you speak about the concept of holistic wellness, remember when I said for the person to be regarded as good, it's when they are able to, when they are well by terms of emotionally, by terms of by means emotion, they are well in terms of emotionally, physically, and physically, emotionally, and socially as well, including intelligence. The concept of holistic wellness, it's an overview of the whole thing. And they spoke about what is employability skills. Employability skills, these are the skills that are acquainted or that are gained by a learner to be able to function somewhere else in the community. Employability skill, the person should be able to be innovative and creative. Maybe it's when we teach our learners with employability skills, able to go out and do and run their own kind of entrepreneurs, or they kind of go and run their own type of issues on their own. They're not just taught, or they're just going to school to become, they're not going to school to look for employment or to seek for employment, but they are going to school to be taught on how to empower themselves and to stand themselves via different activities. Then it comes to the goals of education. I think I have mentioned this. The goals of education of the Renaissance period and the Reformation period. Please go through this one as well. Guidelines that supported a development of a national curriculum in Namibia after independence. So remember when I was telling you about the purpose of education and the content of education. So when education is being revised, there are some guidelines. Remember when I have mentioned that curriculum is an educational track, or it's an educational guideline that direct the implementation of the whole curriculum. I mean, the implementation of the whole education system. So now, part of issues that are discussed in Unit 2 are that what type of guidelines that supported the development of a national curriculum in Namibia after independence. So when Namibia was, this question is, this concept actually means that when Namibia was revisiting their curriculum in 1990 after independence, or 1991 or 1993, what guidelines that supported their development, or what guidelines really kind of influenced or kind of motivated them? What were they looking at? So they were guided by the aspiring approach in syllabus development, where different grade levels and phases are progressively linked. So they wanted to link the grade levels. So like if you are coming from grade 1, automatically they say the level of grade 1 is linked to the level of grade 2. There is no gap. It's called articulations in the education, in the language of in the education, that articulation meaning that the person is able to, there is no gap between grade 1 and grade 2, or grade 7 and grade 8. So immediately they looked at a aspiring approach in syllabus which is connected to different grades, which connects or it's linked to different grades, that for the person to, when the person passed grade 1, they should be able to go to grade 2. They also guided by a democratic curriculum development process via subject panels. There were democratic curriculum development processes, like there were panels. It was a democratic, there was not that authoritarian, so different people have views on the, were given views to do something on the curriculum. So they also looked at a curriculum that would foster democracy, non-racism, non-sexism, and equality, a holistic understanding of the nation as a world, and the nation and the world. They just didn't look at Namibia as a country on its own, but they also looked on issues that are around the world. What happens in the classroom must be relevant for Namibian society. They also looked at teaching, teaching a curriculum that is based on the Namibian society, and what is happening in the class is also what is happening, addressing. It should be what is happening in class or what is happening in the Namibian society should be addressed by the curriculum. For instance, if I remember when I was in grade 2 or grade 5, we were taught about Jan van Riebeeck, about how Jan van Riebeeck traveled the world, and how Jan Riebeeck discovered the Rudolph. There were issues before independence. There were issues that were not really very important. We even thought about locusts, but it was not very important, because why do I need to know about Jan van Riebeeck? Because the curriculum was based on those people on the colonial list. So they make sure that we also know people that came first here, the dyers, for us to know that they have discovered Namibia. But in this case now, what happens, they have decided that the guidelines are that what is happening in Namibia should be linked to the classroom, or what is happening in the classroom should be linked to what is happening in the Namibian society. They also looked at the establishment of ministerial policy to regulate, support, and to sustain the curriculum development. So by this I mean that they also wanted to establish ministerial policies. There were policies toward education for all. I think there was ETIP, there was kind of different policies in terms of education that should regulate and also support and sustain the curriculum development. They just didn't wake up and say we are going to do, but curriculum is also based on the purpose, the content, the purpose. It also has to do the policy statement. They also have policies that guide the whole thing. I would want you to go through the features of the new 2014 senior secondary curriculum. What are these features of a new senior secondary curriculum in Namibia? What are they looking at? So I'm not going, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go them. Please, what is the 2014? We are in 2019. What is the proposed? What is going to happen this year? I mean, what is happening now in 2020 that was proposed in 2014? The roles and the responsibility of the school board in the curriculum design and implementation. If you could see, the curriculum development has different stakeholders' involvement. It's just not made up by the school teacher, by the principal, and the parents. They are also what we call the school board. So the school board has a responsibility also into the curriculum, into the design and the curriculum implementation. What are they going to do? They are going to advise the regional director. They are going to advise the school management. So when we are having school board at your school, don't just say that they are there to kind of they're just not there to maybe threaten you or to do whatever, but they're also there for the purpose. And part of this purpose is to make sure that there are enough teachers and the resources. That's why in many cases we see when you are appointing teachers, school boards also come and sign. And then factors that have a crucial influence on the implementation of a curriculum. We have curriculum is based on the it's actually influenced by certain aspects. We have a historical foundation, like when curriculum is being implemented or revised, it's also based on other issues. Historical foundation, what is the history? Where are we coming from? What history did we have? Like the current now that we are revising, it's based on the history too. The one that was revised in 1990, it was based on the history of colonialism. So the government wanted to eradicate all those racial discriminations and undemocratic exercises to make sure that it's to get rid of those historical foundation. So in many cases, it's also have its curriculum is also influenced, or it's also depend on the historical foundation of a certain country or certain education system. Philosophical foundation, what beliefs and norms are guiding the curriculum. The political foundation, what type of political condition are around in the country that can influence or that can maybe influence the kind of the curriculum to be implemented. Economic, maybe what type of economic issues do you want to address? And then the legal foundations and the social foundations. The social foundation factors that influence the curriculum issues and trends in Namibia by the year 2000. Part of remember when I'm saying curriculum is based on social issues. So part of the social foundations it's not historical, and it's very important that you differentiate here. The social foundation issues of the curriculum are not the same as historical. The historical are not the same as legal. The legal are not the same as economic. So in terms of the social foundation, we have alcoholic. Maybe the country wanted to, by the year 2000, people wanted to get rid of alcohol, so they make sure that the curriculum is also addressing all these type of issues: family and city, violence, racism, poor quality, gay marriages, divorces. These are social issues that are also influencing the curriculum of the implementation of the curriculum, because people or the government felt that they also want to address certain aspects. We are moving toward Unit 4, the difference between education and training. In many cases, training is not about education, and education is not the same as training. So training focuses on the narrower focus on the what, the how, and the when. Training is a smaller sister of education, or education is the mother of training. So education is kind of a broader concept than training, with high cognitive demands and then training, and a focus on knowledge rather than on skills. Education is more on acquisition of different type of knowledge, like it's a broader concept, while training is narrower because it's training in a particular aspect which is under education. The concept of competency-based education, you would see that we are moving toward chapter 4 now. You would see that when education, the curriculum is being based, there is what we call the subject-based education and the competency-based education. The competency-based education focuses on certain, literally, it's more like on competencies. So while the subject is more based on the subject, which means the competency-based education is more on vocational training, and while the subject-based is more on the secondary, the current secondary education. So the competency is theory, and it's practicals, while the subject is theory. So the concept of competency-based education. So method of instruction involve mastery learning. The premise that all participants can master the acquired knowledge or skills provided sufficient time. Learning should be very self-paced. You could see that the way learners at VTCs are learning is not the same as the one in schools. So by self-paced, we mean that learners if you go to VTC and see how they are learning on their own. They're not in class. They are literally just there, standing there on themselves and just on themselves. So they are kind of learning via mastery skills. They have to master the skill. For you to be a plumber, you really have to make sure that you put pipes together. For you to be an IT, you have to compare a laptop. It's not like the one subject where we are given a test, we memorize and we come and write a test. The importance of competency-based education. Why is competency-based education very important than subject-based? Prepare people for work and life roles. It also focuses on learners and society needs. You see, it's also a collaborative arrangement between workplace and education providers. People that are at VTCs, they just say that they normally say that Safari was not born by the person with a diploma or with a PhD, but it was based on a person who is coming from technically. The buildings that they are products of competency-based education, but they're not for theories. But however, you could maybe say there's also an architect, but there are also people that are working in the offices. They are coming from the subject-based education. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through one by one, but please pay attention to it. The rights and the responsibility of the learners and their influence in the design and implementation of a curriculum. A curriculum is not a one-man show. It's made up of different people. It's made up of the people in terms of the teacher, the parents, the school board, the community, and the learners. Yes, you might be asking, but Miss, how do learners get involved into the curriculum? The learners get involved in the curriculum because they know what are the needs of the community, because learners know what they want. So no learner shall be excluded from or discriminated against in admission to any public school or in obtaining the advantage, privilege, and the courses of study of such public. So in terms of the rights and the responsibility of the learners into the curriculum implementation, learners are the one who are getting involved into the real action show. So learners, they have a right to go to school, they have a right to physical safety in the school, they have a right to safe sanitary facility, they have a right to go to school, they have a right to education of the highest standard and quality, not being spoiled by the teachers. So learners, they also have a responsibility to study apart from their rights, but they also have a responsibility to study, to take their studies very serious, to respect the teachers, to take care for the resources at the school. You know, it's just not about rights, but it also comes with responsibility. The influence of learners in the design and implementation of a curriculum: respect the rights of, feelings, and property of all persons involved in the educational process. I think I've just explained about these things. They assure that they exercise their voices in student government. That's why we have even government, or that way we have student organization. The student organizations are there to protect the rights of the learners. Learners also have a right to say no. The teacher can just not teach us 8 to 5. Maybe we can even organize other extra classes somewhere. Yes, learners also have rights into the design and the implementation. In other countries, you even find that prior to the curriculum, learners are asked that, what is that you want to be taught? What is that you would want to be taught? What is that you would want to be empowered with? Because they know what they need. Remember, they have their own needs. Remember, we are speaking about even pedagogy and adult education. Learners have, if you are doing the curriculum for maybe literacy studies or adult education, you'd ask these people, what do you want to be taught? They also have a right, and they also have their own needs into the curriculum. The importance of planning the curriculum in curriculum development, as I have mentioned, that curriculum is not just a one-man show. There's a need for the people to be gathered and to plan what is going to happen. Planning help to carry out a situational analysis of local education needs. You can just not wake up in the morning and say, today we are going to change the Namibian curriculum, next year we are implementing, without any planning. You need to do a situational analysis. What do people need? So why is planning very important in the curriculum development? It helps us to carry a situational analysis. It may also profile intended learners. It may also help us to know who are the people that are needed into the curriculum. It also helps us to formulate holistic based aims of the qualification. Like, what is the qualification going to address? It set criteria for the selection and organization of the content. It set criteria in terms of, it set standard, it set requirement, it set maybe procedures and regulations on how are we going to organize this and what criteria should be met by the content. It also set the time and the schedule properly. We should be able to say that if you are planning for a course, we should be able to know that, okay, this course is going to cover A and B and C for how long is the course going to run? 3 or 4 years. And then the Fox Elcon quoted the step design of a program of qualification. Remember, the steps of a program or qualification are not the same as curriculum planning. A program or qualification is not a curriculum. A program or qualification is a narrower part of the curriculum. A qualification is actually kind of a content that will be covered in the curriculum. So it's very important that when we are looking about the steps in designing a qualification, they are not the same as the steps in designing a curriculum. Clarify the philosophical base. I'm not going to go through them, but because in many cases students misplace, or they kind of misunderstood these issues, because when you speak about steps of a qualification, they are not the same as a step into a curriculum. By the time you come to a qualification, you have already planned the curriculum. Promoting quality education in Namibia. How do you promote quality education in Namibia, and what is quality? It's quality when the learners' needs are met, the teachers are met, the society needs are also met. It's just not about you saying if you are graduating 100% or if you're having a passing rate of 100% in your class, does that qualify to be called a quality education? It becomes quality when it needs when it satisfies the need of the society, of the learners, of the teachers, of the parents, and the entire Namibian, including the competitive world. Unit 7, quality as value for money or return investment. So quality as excellency or consistency, quality as fitness for the purpose. The curriculum is designed toward achieving clearly selected and specified outcomes. So there are different types of quality for the curriculum. So it becomes quality in terms of money, quality in terms of excellence, quality in terms of the purpose. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all of them, but just at least learn for you to be able to differentiate when it's quality for value and when it's quality for fitness or for the purpose. The possible positive and negative impact of a proposed changes to the senior secondary education phase. Remember when we have spoken about the proposed changes to the senior education that was proposed in 2014. So what are the negative impacts and what are the positive impact? Perhaps maybe the former technical schools with the hostel would be ideal for a startup. Maybe there are no accommodation for technical. There are no accommodation. Maybe there are no accommodation. Maybe there are no expertise. But what aspect are we facing in terms of the impact of the proposed curriculum? The issues, the negative and the positive issues. The possible, I think they are still going on. So we are almost coming to the end of the presentation. One thing I would want you to take note of this presentation is that we have kind of defined the aspect of curriculum. Then we looked at the challenges we are facing into implementing the curriculum. We are looking at the purpose. Why are we doing this type of curriculum? What content will it cover? And what are the procedures what are the procedures or steps in implementing this curriculum? We have the initial stage when we kind of just brainstorm ideas on what should be covered, and then we have the planning phase, then we have the development of material phase, then we have the implementation. The implementation is now the execution, and then we have the evaluation. It's also very important that you kind of look at the aspect that influence curriculum. Now that you have taken through some few topics that would acquaint you with the course, it's very important that you also read other aspects in the study guide that are not part of this presentation, as they're also going to be part of the examination. We have almost come to the end of the presentation. However, please take note of the following information for your exam. As I've mentioned, topics covered in this presentation are not the only one to be covered in the exam. Some of them, they are not even going to be in the exam, but the reason for the presentation is to give you an overview of what the whole curricular issues are. So please do not only study to memorize, but always try to understand. Pay attention to the allocation of marks. Be brief and straight to the point. Provide practical examples to earn more marks. And I would also want to let you know that pay attention to the study guide, to the verbs that are mentioned. If you say critically discuss, you critically discuss based on the given terms. Critically discuss, critically you criticize, like you give the positive and the negative part. If they say mention 4 types of assessment, you mention them because no need to explain. If you say discuss the impact of the new the new curriculum introduced in Namibia 2014, you discuss, you give practical examples. For example, the buildings are not going to be enough for technical education. However, it's gonna maybe address some of the needs of the society. You really kind of pay attention to the verbs. If you say explain, explain. Also look at the marks that are allocated to the question. Do not just answer the question. The question carries 20 marks and you only give me 5. I'll give you 5 points. So some of these are information to the examination. Please arrive on time, 30 minutes on time, and to avoid confusions, and don't wait up until the last minute. Start preparing for your questions prior to hand, and provide practical examples to earn more marks. Write neatly and eligible. I know some of us, we have very bad handwriting, you know. Some people write like doctors, but please be neat, at least neat. And even read, if you have time, read out and number your questions clearly. I'm struggling. Some people would have 2.1 as a first question, but they want to make it a question. It doesn't matter. You can start with the question that you want, but write and number your questions very neat. Give special attention to the content of the contact class. Start preparing for your exam on time. Get acquainted with the work. Enjoy your studies. I'm available for after hours, but upon appointment, you can also call me and say, Miss, can we speak around 2 or 1? Don't make it too late, but that is my contact number. You can drop me an email, or you can just drop me an SMS. Sometimes if I have credit, I can call you as a student. I thank you that you are going to make it. Please be calm. Don't get stressed. It's easier. We can all make it. I wish you all the best. Thank you.